One tail, two heads. Young yin. Three heads. Old yang. Two heads, one tail. Young yin. Lunas. Luna. Lunas Kadee. Lunas. Oh. I'm reshooting this. No, can't. Let's do this. I'll put the cat in. Rewrite this line. Wrote it incorrectly. That's just a young yin. Let me put the cat in. We'll commence this shortly. Give me a second. Apologies. Young yin. One tail, two heads. Yang yin. 2 heads, 1 tail. Two tails, 1 head, yin yang. Passage from Vitality, Energy, Spirit, a Taoist source book. This comprehensive anthology traces the teaching on the 3 treasures, vitality, energy, and spirit, through the long history of Taoism, along with brief selections from the classic texts of Lao Tzu and Zhuangzi. The book presents a rich selection of tales and sayings from Taoist literature, as well as a broad range of writings from the Complete Reality School. Clarifying the way. There are no words for the subtle primal principle. Whatever you may say is all conditioned. Students produce a welter of different views and do not find out the state before birth. The enlightening process is uncontrived, in accord with nature. There is no immortality outside naturalness. Always keep one thought, remaining on the middle way, not asking about the primordial or temporal. It is better to comprehend essence before life, for when essence is clear, there are no demons in comprehending life. If you want to know where essence in life rests secure, before ideation sprouts, you're one with the universal harmony. Although the science of life can be transmitted, the science of essence cannot be handed on. The ignorant who practice blindly are truly pitiful. If you don't get personal instruction from an adept, all your psychological manipulations will instead bring an error. The essential subtlety of our path is in sincerity alone. Without sincerity, you have nothing, and the Tao cannot be approached. When utterly silent and unstirring, there is no sensation. In the midst of trance, you see original reality. When human desires have not sprouted, the celestial design is there, As soon as thoughts stir, ghosts and spirits know. Don't ignore even subtle hidden thoughts. Be strict and extra cautious. Practice this in everyday life. It won't work if you stray. Good and evil both arise in the moment of a thought. Let a single thought slip, and you're obstructed by 1,000 barriers. If you know there is no good and no evil, you are calm and serene, standing aloof like a great mountain. The Tao is always to be practiced in the midst of daily life. Stop talking about lofty wonders and the empty void. Just carry out the human Tao, and there will be no shame in your heart. When you fulfill your nature, you'll know heaven and earth are the same. The myriad affairs of the human world all come from the mind. The mind is basically formless. Where will you look for it? Understand before a single thought is born, and then you will finally see the real mind. The moment thoughts go awry, they become afflictions. When the mind is empty, objects are empty of themselves. Empty yet not empty. One is perfectly aware, gazing clearly, unobstructed, through the great void. All things are empty, but essence isn't void. Set to work inside of empty voidness. When you reach the point where nothing can be established, gold light fills the room and you see the mystic pearl. Before you know true emptiness, do not speak of emptiness. If you cling to emptiness, you will easily lose the inner self. Do you want to know the true state within emptiness? It is all before the differentiation of the primordial unity. To learn the Tao, you must know birth and death. If you don't know birth and death, it is vain to seek immortality. When you know where you were born, then you know death. Free to leave or stay, you leave it up to nature. Originally, there is no death and no birth. The moment a thought goes astray, you see myriad forms. If you know where thoughts arise and vanish, the solitary orb of the bright moon illumines the central courtyard. Spiritual practice requires that you know the true self. All those who do not know the true self fall into the void. If you can awaken to real eternity, then you attain the Tao. Transcending the world, you manifest supernatural powers. The inner or bottom trigram of our primary hexagram will be read as broken, solid, broken, which is Kan, water. Kan is deep water, flowing and formless. He is the complement of Li, dark where Li is bright, unconscious to her sharp lucidity, and represents a more fluid, intuitive, and emotional way of perceiving. This is danger, exposure, and solitude, and the need to respond with courageous self-reliance when confronted by the haunting unknown. Water is the middle sun, situated in the north, associated with midwinter and midnight. Top or outer trigram of our primary and secondary hexagrams will be read as broken, broken, solid, which is Gen Mountain. The mountain is still. It is a limit where you must stop. Gen brings each cycle to an end, defining a space where we can recognize, assimilate, and complete our experience. He creates a personal still center amid change, where we can retreat for perspective and a firm foundation for new growth. He is well-grounded, confident, and of independent spirit. He is still and knows. Mountain is the youngest son, child of maturity. In the cycle of directions and seasons, he is the northeast, late winter approaching spring, the pivot between cycles. Once our old yang line transforms into a young yin, our secondary hexagram, the bottom trigram of it will be read as broken, 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 which is Kun, earth. Kun is earth, open to receive and support what comes to her, providing for its full development. She makes inspiration manifest, gives it form, and sustains its growth. Earth is available to be used, ready to lend her strength to the work without limit. She protects and accepts all things in their totality, present and potential, in an unconditional embrace. Earth is mother, found in the southwest and the harvest time of late summer and early autumn. Our primary hexagram then will be mountain above water, and our secondary hexagram will be mountain above earth. Our primary hexagram is 4, and our secondary hexagram, or supporting hexagram, is 23. We will start by reading from the Taoist I-ming, written by I-ming in 1796 as a Taoist adept, and Thomas Cleary has translated it. Hexagram 4 has the general, succinct definition of darkness. Starting yin convergence, making unruly yin submit, integrating with the world yet preventing mundanity from taking over. Negatively, it represents obscurity, unknowing. Positively, it represents innocence. Also represents stopping in danger. And hexagram 23, stripping away. Submission to desire, acquired mundanity, dissolving away the celestial energy. When we consult the oracle or ask a question of the I Ching, it'll have the general context of how can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment of time? And our answer will be understood when we understand how the parts of our reading work together. And the key to understanding a reading is to know your way around its main components, how they fit together, and the different roles they play. If your reading includes changing lines, which ours does, then you will need to understand primary hexagram, relating hexagram, and changing lines together. The two hexagrams in conversation with one another map out your whole answer. The primary hexagram shows you quite directly what your answer involves. The relating hexagram generally describes what the answer is about for you. It sets the primary hexagram in a broader context, an influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. If the two hexagrams map out a landscape for you, then the changing lines stick a pin in that map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They are the immediate answer to your question. As the most specific, focused part of a reading, their message always takes precedence over all other elements. For example, the primary hexagram might describe a reassuringly secure situation, but a changing line could warn how insecure your position is within it. Hexagram 4. Darkness. In darkness is development, It is not that I seek naive innocence. Naive innocence seeks me. The first augury informs, the second and third defile. Defilement does not inform. It is beneficial to be correct. Explanation. Darkness means obscurity and unknowing. In the body of the hexagram, mountain is above, with 2 yin advancing under 1 yang. Water is below, with 1 yang fallen between 2 yins. Both have forms of yin injuring yang. Therefore it is called darkness. As for the qualities of the hexagram, danger is within stillness. There is danger, yet ability to stop. This includes the meaning of stopping darkness. This hexagram represents starting the operation of yin convergence. The hexagram follows on the previous hexagram, earth. Earth means going on the path of submission and receptivity. Carrying out yin convergence means returning recalcitrant yin to submission. After the primordial yang in people culminates, conditioned yin arises. The original spirit is obscured and discriminatory awareness does things. One drops the real and recognizes the false, using intellect mistakenly, producing all sorts of cleverness. Though overtly there is light, inside is really dark. This is where darkness comes from. Once you have entered darkness, essence is disturbed and life is destabilized. In a single day, you are born 1,000 times and die 10,000 times, not knowing how to stop. This is most perilous. If you know there is danger and are able to stop it, silencing the intellect, being as though ignorant and dumb, though you be without knowledge outwardly, inwardly you really have knowledge. From false darkness you return to true darkness. Thus it is that in darkness there is paradoxically a way of development. The best development of darkness is innocence. The darkness of innocence unconsciously follows the laws of God, tranquil and unstirring, yet sensitive and effective. All actions flow from the fundamental essence. This is the dignified status of a sage, the aspect of the celestial human. Those who travel the path of darkness must go back to the darkness of innocence. Only then is it the darkness that is returning to the origin. However, this darkness of return to the origin is not a matter of seeking naive innocence oneself. It is naive innocence that seeks oneself. Not seeking innocence oneself means that it does not come about by formal effort and is not attached to forms. Innocence seeking oneself means that it comes naturally and does not fall into voidness. Not clinging to forms, not falling into voidness, not material, not empty. Since it is not a matter of seeking the real, one does not exclude the artificial either. Ever calm yet always responsive yet ever calm. It is not darkness yet resembles darkness. It is darkness but actually not darkness. External things cannot enter, inside thoughts cannot arise. One does not seek reality, but reality is here. But this path that is neither form nor void has 2 methods, nurturing darkness and opening darkness, which should be known. When yin and yang are mixed and natural reality has not yet been injured, and external influences have not yet entered, darkness belongs to reality. It is like a first augury, when the yarrow sticks are not yet divided, surely giving direction at first. One should be open, calm, sincere, and serious, thereby going on the path of non-contrivance. Once yin and yang have divided, there is a lack of natural reality. External influences creep in, and darkness winds up in falsehood. It is like when the yarrow sticks are messed up after 2 or 3 auguries. Without awaiting their directions, one may change arrangements, thus going on the path of striving. The path of non-contrivance nurtures the darkness of reality. The path of striving transforms the darkness of falsehood. Nurturing reality, transforming falsehood, striving and non-striving are to be used according to the time and situation as appropriate. One may proceed from striving and wind up non-striving, or one may succeed in striving by way of non-striving. In either case, the ultimate accomplishment is to use the highest good without evil, wholly integrated with natural principle, to go back to the origin, return to the fundamental, and revert to innocence. Those who travel the path of darkness must do so in the correct way. Hexagram 23, stripping away, our secondary supporting hexagram. Stripping away does not make it beneficial to go anywhere. Explanation. Stripping away is dissolving. As to the qualities of the hexagram, above is mountain, stopping. Below is earth, following. Yin grows as it goes along and yang stops. Furthermore, in the body of the hexagram there are 5 yins, which have dissolved it down to 1 yang. The yang energy is about to be exhausted, and the yin energy is about to become pure. Therefore, it is called stripping away. This hexagram represents acquired yin dissolving yang. It follows on the previous hexagram biting through. In biting through, action requires understanding, so we first investigate principle. Investigating principle means investigating the principle of waning and waxing of yin and yang. People are born with 5 elementary combinations of yin and yang from heaven and earth. Once they have life, they have essence. Essence and life reside in one body. When people are first born, essence and life are one. The primordial and the temporal are merged into one. Yin and yang are as yet undivided. Wrong and right are as yet not distinguished. They are the image of wholeness. Then as they grow up and their energy becomes full, the primordial yang culminates and mixes with acquired conditioning. One yin surreptitiously arises. Then as the days and years go by, yin energy gradually grows and yang energy gradually weakens. Until it wanes completely, yang energy does not stop. This is like the body of this hexagram, which 5 yins have stripped down to 1 yang. At this point, yang cannot overcome yin. What remains is very slight yang. If people do not know this and still take the false for the real, and go somewhere to do something relying on their strength, they will surely come to the complete exhaustion of yang energy, which is very detrimental. Here, developed people have a way to suppress yin and enhance yang, which does not let yin energy dissolve yang completely away. This hexagram represents acquired yin dissolving yang. It follows on the previous hexagram biting through. In biting through, action requires understanding. So we first investigate principle. Investigating principle means investigating the principle of waning and waxing of yin and yang. People are born with 5 elementary combinations of yin and yang from heaven and earth. Once they have life, they have essence. Essence and life reside in one body. When people are first born, essence and life are one. The primordial and the temporal are merged into one. Yin and yang are as yet undivided. Wrong and right are as yet not distinguished. They are the image of wholeness. Then as they grow up and their energy becomes full, the primordial yang culminates and mixes with acquired conditioning. 1 yin surreptitiously arises. I know we read all this. Apologies. Then as the days and years go by, yin energy gradually grows and yang energy gradually weakens. Until it wanes completely, yang energy does not stop. This is like the body of this hexagram, which 5 yins have stripped down to 1 yang. At this point, yang cannot overcome yin. What remains is very slight yang. We read that as well, which is very detrimental. Here, developed people have a way to suppress yin and enhance yang, which does not let yin energy dissolve yang completely away. That is where this 1 point of yang energy is not yet exhausted. They accord with it and stabilize it, getting rid of intellectualism, shutting out conditioning influences, and returning to the fundamental, original foundation. What does not allow yang to avoid turning to yin is the circulating energy mechanism of heaven and earth. Yet what is able to preserve yang in the midst of yin is the power of the practice of a reverse operation of sages. Since sages have a path that is before time and yet not violated by nature, they can use it to usurp creation and turn life and death around. As for ordinary people, they go along with the course of creation, which strips away yang by yin. When yang energy has waned away and become pure yin, how can they not die? At the 1 hexagram stripping away, the sage has simply said that it is not beneficial to go anywhere. Any who value essence in life would do well to understand this right away. Changing line 2 of hexagram 4 has the general context of the heart's perception, the emotional center where you make and feel connections. This will be our most focused point of the reading. Changing line 2, hexagram 4. Taking in darkness is good. Taking a wife is good. The air ably takes over the family affairs. Explanation. Being firm yet capable of flexibility, using yin to nurture yang, is taking in darkness. When darkness is taken in, outside is dark while inside is light. Not only is yang energy not damaged, it even grows. This is like the good fortune of taking a wife, with the air naturally taking over the family affairs. This is the time when one can nurture positive energy in darkness. Hexagram 4, darkness. Mountain above, water below. Under a mountain, a spring is produced. In darkness, a superior person nurtures character with fruitful action. Darkness means developmental nurturance without intellectualism. Above is mountain, below is water. Here water is referred to as a spring and not water, because the spring under the mountain is water. When a spring is produced under a mountain, the spring is nurtured by the mountain, being water with a basis, flowing far from a deep source, going through without hindrance. This is the image of darkness. What superior people see in this is that when those who practice the Tao want to exercise virtue outwardly, first they must develop character inwardly. If one acts without development, the action will have no basis. Without inner mastery, action will injure character. This is the reason for emulating a spring emerging from a mountain, acting fruitfully without obstruction, taking as a model the mountain nurturing the spring, nurturing character with caring warmth. The yang in the center of water refers to what is produced by celestial unity, the original generative energy that gives birth to beings. This is what is called the celestial virtue, or power. This virtue is hidden in the temporal. Since ordinary people follow temporally acquired conditioning and abandon the primordial, most do not know how to develop, nurture, cultivate, and sustain this primal virtue. So as a result, they gradually dissipate it and harm their own essence in life. Those who awaken to this set aside acquired conditioning to practice inner development and outward action, using development to perfect action, using action to test development. Cultivating both inside and outside, nurturing character is developmental, and acting on it is developmental as well. Nurturing character means no worthy quality is left undeveloped. Fruitful action demands that every act be fruitful. Nurturance of character demands that it be nurtured until it is stable as a mountain. Only then is development complete. Fruitful action demands that it be effective as a spring flowing day and night. Only then is fruition complete. Action fruitful, character developed, one completes one's nature and understands the meaning of life. Integrated with the celestial design, unconsciously following the laws of God. This is why darkness is valued. Supporting hexagram 23, stripping. Mountain above, earth below. Mountains are joined to the earth. Those above secure their homes by kindness to those below. Stripping means removing. Above is mountain, below is earth. Mountains are joined to the earth. Mountains are high, the earth is low. Joining mountains to the earth, the excess of the high is removed and the insufficiency of the low is fulfilled. This is the image of stripping. What those in high positions see in this is that just as mountains cannot be stable unless they are joined to the earth, those in high positions cannot be secure unless they are kind to those below them. Therefore, they take away from the high and give to the low, to enable those below to find their places. This is because the people are the basis of the country. When the basis is secure, the country is at peace. Then those in high positions can also live peacefully in their homes and administer non-coercive government. Among practitioners of the Tao, those with capacity and knowledge are the high ones, and those without capacity or knowledge are the low ones. When those who have capacity do not presume upon it, and those who have knowledge do not depend on it, and they take their excess of capacity and knowledge and pass it on to those lacking in capacity and knowledge, joining the high to the low, being fulfilled but dwelling in emptiness, then elevation is true elevation. Fulfillment is true fulfillment. They transform the artificial into reality, rest in ultimate good unwavering, and abide securely in their homes, invulnerable to external influences. The secure home for humans is benevolence. Taking from those above to give to those below, when the inversion is made, stripping changes into return. Having returned, it is possible to rely on benevolence. The mechanism of enlivening operates, and nature and life are secured. In securing their homes by kindness to those below, the celestial mechanism is finally revealed. We will read from James Dekorne's website. I link all the hexagrams we read in the description box to James Dekorne's website. He compiles several commentaries together and then gives his own editor notes, which are typically very informative. He also gives various quotes from interesting sources that I usually end up buying the books that I read the quotes from quite frequently, and they turned out to be really great books. Our primary hexagram for inexperience. Other titles might be youthful folly, the symbol of covering, immaturity, uncultivated growth, youth, acquiring experience, youthful ignorance, enveloping, folly, darkness. D.F. Hook, quote, "Often the I Ching uses this hexagram to show us that we should not be asking this question." In the judgment, leg, inexperience means progress and success. I do not seek the inexperienced youth, but he seeks me. When he shows the sincerity proper for divination, I instruct him. If he asks 2 or 3 times, that is troublesome, and I do not instruct the troublesome. Firm correctness brings advantage. Blowfold, immaturity, good fortune. I am not one to seek out uncultivated youths, but if such a youth seeks me out, I shall at first read and explain the omens. Yet should he ask me many times just because of his importunity, I shall not explain anything more. The omen indicates a need for proper direction. This hexagram suggests stubbornness, the upper trigram, issuing from the softness of the womb, the lower trigram. While it sometimes happens that youthful rashness succeeds where sober counsels fail, it is nevertheless the duty of the mature man to cultivate the minds of the young and to respond, within reason, to their requests for guidance. As an omen, this hexagram may be taken to imply a case in which a certain amount of rashness may lead to success, but in which older people are not absolved from the duty of guiding the young. There is also a suggestion that the Book of Change itself, though fully responsive to those who make the right approach, will not brook importunity in the form of trivial questions or of seeking to reverse its judgments by further questioning. Whether the omen may be taken to mean that we should go ahead with some rash scheme, or that it is time for us to restrain someone's youthful rashness, will depend upon the nature of the inquiry, the people concerned in it, and the particular moving lines involved in the response. Ritzema/Karcher says, enveloping, growing. In no way me seeking youthful enveloping seeking me. The initial oracle consulting, notifying, twice, 3 times, obscuring. Obscuring, by consequence, not notifying, harvesting trial. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of concealment and clouded awareness. It emphasizes that actively accepting this concealment in order to nurture growth is the adequate way to handle it. The image. Leg, a spring issuing from the mountain, the image of inexperience. The superior man, in accordance with this, nourishes his virtue and strives for resoluteness of conduct. Blowfold. This hexagram symbolizes a watery hole at the foot of a mountain amidst uncultivated growth. The superior man, by determined good conduct, nourishes his virtue. The second sentence is deduced from the first. Both are suggested by the component trigrams. Ritzema/Karcher, below mountain, issuing forth spring water, enveloping. A chunsu, or superior person, or chief son, uses fruiting movement to nurture actualizing Tao. Actualizing Tao is the ability to follow the course traced by the ongoing process of the cosmos, linked with acquire, day, acquiring that which makes a being become what it is meant to be. Di, as in Dao Di Ching. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. Inexperience shows the trigram of the mountain above that of the abyss. The perilous impasse suggested by these figures evokes the idea of inexperience. Progress and success are suggested because the action and development of the hexagram conform to the requirements of the time. When inexperience seeks wisdom, will responds to will. The oracle responds to sincerity because it has the qualities of the dynamic line in the central second place. But the oracle does not respond to ignorant importuning. The proper duty of a sage is to nourish the correct nature of the ignorant. And Leg. Difficulty shows us plants struggling within the earth, and inexperience suggests the small and undeveloped sprouts which then appear upon its surface. This is an image of youthful ignorance, and the object of the hexagram is to show how those in authority should deal with it. The judgment takes the form of the oracle's response to the questioner. The upper trigram represents a frowning mountain which blocks the progress of the traveler. The lower trigram symbolizes a stream of water in a dangerous canyon, such as might be found at the foot of a mountain. The combination of these symbols suggests the perilous nature of ignorant inexperience. The subject of line 2 represents the oracle, who demands sincerity from the unenlightened. It is his duty to evoke the innate correct nature hidden within the questioner, to bring this quality out and develop it. In regard to the image, Chu Hsi says the water of a spring is sure to move on and gradually advance. This may serve as a symbol of the general process and progress of education. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. Inexperience portrays the relationship between the ego and the self as one of student to master. Communication via the oracle demands seriousness of purpose. The self refuses to pander to the ego's illusions. The superior man furthers the work by developing his will and intent. Wilhelm's title for this hexagram is Youthful Folly, which tends to lend it a negative connotation that is not always strictly applicable. However, he is quick to point out that the title should be understood to mean the immaturity of youth and its consequent lack of wisdom rather than mere stupidity. While the title of inexperience avoids the negative connotation, it must be acknowledged that there is an aura of irritation in this hexagram, which illustrates an uncomfortable truth about the relationship between the ego and the self. The self is an awesome archetype, and once one has established contact with him, he assumes a distinctly stern personality. The self will not pander to the ego's illusions, and has no patience with anything but the unvarnished truth. Tact and patience are not among his attributes. Lao Tzu describes him very accurately. The sage is unkind. He treats the people like sacrificial straw dogs, which is just the way it is. As a satellite of the self, the ego complex was not created just so that it could spend a lifetime indulging its fantasies. The work must be undertaken, and the self knows more than you do what remains to be done. Like any excellent teacher, he demands more of us than we think we have in us to give. This phenomenon of the tyrannical and often unjust self has been noted in many times and places. Here's an example from Neoplatonism. It's a quote from Iamblichus, the Egyptian Mysteries. What shall we say in regard to the question, why do the divinities that are invoked require the worshipper to be just, although they themselves, when entreated, consent to perform unjust acts? In reply to this, I am uncertain in respect to what is meant by performing unjust acts, as the same definition may not appear right both to us and to the gods. We, on the one hand, looking to that which is least significant, consider the things that are present, the momentary life, what it is and how it originates. The beings superior to us, let me say, know for certain the whole life of the soul and all its former lives. And if they bring on a retribution from the supplication of those who invoke them, they do not increase it beyond what is just. On the contrary, they aim at the sins impressed upon the soul in former lifetimes, which men do not perceive. And so imagine that is unjust that they fall into the misfortunes which they suffer. A contemporary expression of this idea comes from consciousness researcher John Lilly, famous for his work with dolphins and isolation tank experiments with psychedelic drugs. John Lilly. Cosmic love, e.g. the spiritual self, is absolutely ruthless and highly indifferent. It teaches its lessons whether you like/dislike them or not. By definition, the gods, archetypes, are not human. Were it possible for them to evolve without human vessels in space-time, presumably we humans would not exist. It is these archetypes in the guise of our complexes and limiting beliefs that are being altered by the work. Because the unconscious psyche is a multiverse, it is sometimes very difficult to differentiate just who is advising us. And the self, via the oracle, will occasionally test us for our ability to use intuitive common sense. Which is to say, when the gods, or the self, become totally unreasonable, we can only go along with them to the limit of our human understanding. Slavish obedience to all injunctions from the unconscious is to sell our souls outright to something that we don't understand. The renunciation of common sense is the renunciation of our most basic, precious birthright. On the other hand, to disobey at will is to put our souls at risk. This is one of the most painful of all dilemmas. How far do we go in our obedience to unseen powers? Aspects of this problem have been called the dark night of the soul, an inner initiation, a trial by fire to see what we are really made of. There are times in the advanced course of the work when one receives the strange insight that the self actually wants us to disobey. This ordeal can only be lived through. No one can advise you except your own sense of what is right for you at any given moment. The most useful guideline that I have found is that the precepts of the work, as found in the perennial philosophy, are consistent worldwide and constitute a reliably moral structure for responsible choice. If the oracle seems to be telling you to do something contrary to your inner sense of right and wrong, contrary to your understanding of the precepts of the work, then go with this intuition rather than the oracle. The self, via the oracle, will test you in many ways to make you develop. The ultimate goal is to become so infallibly intuitive that oracles become superfluous. The gods need our intelligent disobedience if they themselves are to evolve. It is in the stress between obedience and conscientious disobedience that growth takes place. In one sense, whatever choice you make, as long as it is conscious and you fully accept the consequences, is the right choice for you at the moment. We learn through our mistakes and can never fail our lessons if we truly integrate the experience into our unfolding lives. Confucius, one of the greatest teachers who ever lived, obviously took his teaching method from the judgment of this hexagram. The master said, "I won't teach a man who is not anxious to learn, and will not explain to one who is not trying to make things clear to himself. And if I explain 1/4 and the man doesn't go back and reflect and think out the implications in the remaining 3/4 for himself, I won't bother to teach him again." And so it is with the oracle, the self. The deeper one gets involved in the work, the more difficult the lessons become, so that one is always kept in a position of relative inexperience. There are times when a simple answer would suffice, that you will receive an ambiguous image, which, If you do 3/4 of the work, will lead you to a profound insight. Supporting Hexagram 23, Disintegration. Other titles: Splitting Apart, the symbol of falling or flaying, Peeling Off, decay, flaying, stripping away, intrigue, deterioration, collapse, fracturing, tearing, disintegration, ruin, unraveling. DF Hook can refer to a physical parting, making a secure foundation. Judgment. Leg. Disintegration means that it is not advantageous to make a movement in any direction whatever. Blowfold. Peeling off. At present, there is no goal or destination which can be sought with advantage. Peeling off in the sense of getting rid of hindrances or hinderers one after another. The first 4 lines of this hexagram symbolize a process of ridding ourselves progressively of all those upon whom we are accustomed to rely. For the powers of darkness are in the ascendant, and no one can be trusted. However, in the long run, virtue triumphs, as indicated by line 5, and ultimately we are all the more esteemed for our steadfastness, as can be seen from line 6. Ritsima/Karcher, stripping, not harvesting, possessing directed going. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of something outmoded or worn out. It emphasizes that eliminating what has become unusable is the adequate way to handle it. In the image, Blowfold says, this hexagram symbolizes a mountain resting upon the earth. The truly great shower generosity upon those under them to enable them to live in peace and comfort. The upper and lower trigrams, mountain and earth, symbolize the superior man and the people in his care. Commentary. Confucius/Leg. Disintegration means overthrowing or being overthrown. The magnetic lines attack the dynamic line at the top in order to change it into one of themselves. It is unwise to move in any direction because inferior elements are now increasing in power. The superior man, observing this, stops all forward movement. He defers to the exigency of the time, realizing that increase and decrease, ripeness and decay are cyclical rhythms. Leg. Disintegration is the symbol of falling or causing to fall, and refers to the process of decay or overthrow in both the natural and political worlds. The figure consists of 5 yin lines below and 1 yang line on top. Decay has begun at the bottom and crept upward. The hexagram symbolizes the 9th month when summer has passed and the year is about to fall into the sterile arms of winter. In the political world, inferior men have gradually displaced good men until only one remains. The lesson for him is to wait because the power operating against him is too strong. Eventually, a change for the better will appear. The specific image is that of a bed and its occupant, and the symbolism describes the attempts made to overthrow him. The lower trigram of docility and the upper trigram of keeping still suggest to the superior man of line 6 how he can best deal with the prevailing circumstances. The situation is not hopeless. Winter is followed by spring, night by day, and the waning moon soon grows full again. So will it be in the course of human affairs. The idea behind the image is that a mountain has the earth for its foundation. If the earth is thick, the mountain preserves its height. So it is with the sovereign and people. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. Disintegration means do not act. The superior man stabilizes his responses and seeks tranquility. The 23rd hexagram is the inverse of return, the hexagram immediately following it. Each figure depicts an opposite pole in a cyclic progression. Here the old cycle has disintegrated to the point of dissolution. The following hexagram depicts the return to the beginning of a new cycle. The first 4 lines of disintegration show the gradual erosion of a position or frame of reference, symbolized by a bed or couch. The inferior forces creep up from below like termites to undermine a solid foundation. The 5th line shows a gathering of forces for a potentially positive transformation, and the top line suggests the first stages of this transformation. The implication is that times of disintegration needn't always be regarded as negative or a foregone conclusion. We still have the choice to alter conditions in our favor. That the superior man strengthens his inferiors to ensure the stability of his position means that one stabilizes one's psychological situation by diffusing the causes of rebellion. Safeguard the foundation where it is weak. Hexagram number 43, resoluteness, is a negative picture of this figure, and the message in the image is very similar. The superior man does not hoard his wealth, but shares it with his subordinates. The idea is subtle. It doesn't mean to indulge your weaknesses, but to monitor them encouragingly so that they may become transformed into positive forces. A quote from James Dekorne in Sub-Personalities. Whenever we go deep enough toward the core of a sub-personality, we find that the core, which is some basic urge or need, is good. For practical purposes, this can be considered an absolute. No matter how many layers of distortion may surround it, the basic need, the basic motivation is a good one. And if it becomes twisted, it was because of not being able to express itself directly. The real core, not what the sub-personality wants, but what it needs, is good. A basic purpose of the condition or the coordination phase is to discover this central urge or need, to make it conscious, and to find acceptable ways in which it can be satisfied and fulfilled. And, provided we have sufficient understanding and skill, it can be satisfied, if not fully, at least enough to maintain the process of growth. Now back to hexagram 4 to read our changing line 2, which has the context of the heart's center where we make and feel emotions and connections. Line 2. This will be the most, from before, the most focused part of our reading. It sticks a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. And changing line 2 as the general context, the heart's perception, the emotional center where you make and feel connections. Line 2 of hexagram 4, darkness, leg. The second line, dynamic, shows its subject exercising forbearance with the ignorant, in which there will be good fortune, and admitting even the goodness of women, which will also be fortunate. He may be described also as a son able to sustain the burden of his family. Clearly, gender roles back in the day were a thing. Okay, commentary. Confucius/leg. He is able to sustain the burden of his family because of the reciprocation between this dynamic line and the magnetic 5th line. Wilhelm/Baines. Firm and yielding are in union. Blofeld. No Confucian commentary on this line. Perfect. Leg. On the second line, dynamic and in the central place, devolves the task of enlightening the ignorant with forbearance and humility. In proof of his generosity, he even receives or learns from weak and ignorant women. He appears as the son taking his father's place. All right. Notes and paraphrases. Sue, the man is tolerant of the ignorant and kind to women. He resembles an official capable of assuming the delegated duties of a prince in directing a large social body with inner strength and outward reserve. Wing. The person in this position has indeed developed in himself a true appreciation of humanity in all of its folly and beauty. Such a person can lead others with wisdom, compassion, and inspiration, and attain all the success attributed to the great and wise historical leaders. Editor. Because the I Ching is an empirically valid guide to ethical behavior, we must interpret the sexist imagery in Legge and Wilhelm's version of this line as intrapsychic symbolism. Ignorant, namely, aspects within the psyche resistant to change. Women, namely, eros function, emotions, feelings. To admit even the goodness of women is to acknowledge those feelings which nurture the psyche. Family, namely the psyche. Son, namely the conscious ego. Father equals the self. Able to sustain the burden of his family, able to control psychic impulses. Here's a quote from Marcus Aurelius. From Sextus I learned a benevolent disposition and the example of a family governed in a fatherly manner, and to tolerate ignorant persons and those who form opinions without consideration. He had the power of readily accommodating himself to all. He breaks changing line 2 down into an A and B, two different potential succinct definitions. A, you are competent to handle the situation. And B, the image suggests the consciously responsible management of thoughts and feelings. James Dekorne really saved us from all that sexist talk. Thanks, James. Love you, man. And now Hillary Barrett with her Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future. Hexagram 4, Not Knowing. Key questions. What don't you know? What if you didn't need to know all the answers now? How can you learn from experience? Oracle. Not knowing, creating success. I do not seek the young ignoramus. The young ignoramus seeks me. The first consultation speaks clearly. The second and third pollute the waters. Polluted and hence not speaking. Constancy bears fruit. Not knowing literally means being covered over, like a young animal hidden away in the undergrowth by its mother. So you are ignorant and cannot see as far as you would like to, but this is not such a terrible thing while you are still so small. To be small and ignorant is a creative, harmonious way to engage with your world, and holding steadily to not knowing, and hence to learning, will bring good results. But this flow from creating success to constancy bears fruit is interrupted when the young ignoramus goes running after answers, as if it were embarrassing not to know. In his anxious persistence, he shows a profound disrespect for his teacher and also for the answer he is seeking that he imagines can be had so quickly. So the I who speaks here gives one clear answer, and then may refuse to answer. Or perhaps there is just such confusion that no answers can be understood. That speaker can be another person you're asking for a response you need. It can also be the oracle itself, or what speaks through it. Image. Below the mountain, spring water comes forth, not knowing. A noble one nourishes character with the fruits of action. The pure spring rises under the shelter of the mountain. It doesn't know where it's going, yet its flow becomes steadily deeper and stronger. In the same way, a noble one nurtures personal character and strength with the fruits of going forward and taking action. Learning comes from experience, not in the form of ready-made answers. Sequence. Not knowing follows from Hexagram 3, sprouting. Things that are newly born must needs be ignorant, and so not knowing follows. Not knowing means ignorance and the youth of things. You are at an early stage of development, like an infant, just beginning to toddle out into the wider world. Suddenly you find yourself ignorant. The world is a much less orderly place than it appeared from the cradle. So if you have a confused sense of losing your center, this is a sign that you're seeing the real world more clearly than before. Supporting Hexagram 23, stripping away. Key questions. What has worn out? Is there a less painful way to let this go? What is underneath the surface? Key questions. Oracle. Stripping away. Fruitless to have a direction to go. The surfaces are cut and sliced away. The old and unviable is stripped back to expose the living core. This inevitable, natural process often feels like a flaying. The more you have invested of yourself in these old things, the more painful it will be. It's no good at such times to imagine the future and make plans. You need to bring your energy back to the center and honor the process. This is a time to be transformed, not to act. Moreover, until the old is so utterly stripped from you that you have no choice but to think in new ways, you will only be able to recreate the old patterns. Image. Mountain rests on the earth, stripping away. The heights are generous, and there are tranquil homes below. The mountain is continually stripped away through erosion, and the valley below it, enriched with fertile soil, becomes a peaceful place for life and growth. This is a picture of stripping away at its highest potential, as a constant, gradual, natural, and painless process. Everything that is built up, power or achievement or the edifice of self and identity, must continually erode away. It leaves behind an enriched inner world and a quiet sense of being at home here. Sequence, stripping away, follows from Hexagram 22, beauty. Involved in brightening the appearance, this means success will be truly exhausted, and so stripping away follows. Creating a true image and expression of the inner essence is good, necessary work. But when that essence has left, expending more energy trying to prop up the old image is futile and exhausting. Pair. Stripping away forms a pair with Hexagram 24, returning. Stripping away, rotten. Returning, turn around. Dead wood is pruned back with a sharp knife, and sap returns to the living root for new growth. When the old things end, a new direction opens up and a new cycle begins. And then our changing line 2 from Hexagram 4, which again has the general context, the heart's perception, the emotional center where you make and feel connections. Hexagram 4, not knowing, changing line 2. Embracing the ignoramus, good fortune. Receiving the woman, good fortune. The child governs the home. Embrace the ignoramus, or your own ignorance, like a child in the womb. Accept it. Hold it. Allow it to be as it is. Make the experience of not knowing an integral part of yourself, and you can start learning, which is good fortune. Similarly, be like a young man who receives a wife into his home. Open up your world to the possibility of new life and growth and unpredictable things beyond your experience. Not knowing allows growth, which is also good fortune. Then the known ways of doing things, those well-established frameworks you have depended on, are stripped away. You lose all sense of being the adult in charge. Instead, you allow the child, the natural learner, to govern your space and lead through not knowing. Though Yi doesn't say how well the home will be governed. One is flip backwards, or maybe a stack, but we'll read 37. That's the only one. That's wild. Of the Tao Te Ching, translated by Jia Fu Fang and Jane English. Tao abides in non-action, yet nothing is left undone. If kings and lords observed this, the 10,000 things would develop naturally. If they still desired to act, they would return to the simplicity of formless substance. Without form, there is no desire. Without desire, there is tranquility. And in this way, all things would be at peace.